I'm trying to share with you a certain style of life and an attitude to life and an insight. There is going to be a dance this evening, and I would like you all to come. The person who brings you an invitation to dance.
Hey everybody, coming to you from the home office, Luke from Phathead Racing here on New Year's Eve. We have got something special for the Team Pryme build contest. Big shout outs to Cameron Niemela for sponsoring everybody with the idea of giving away a bike and some money and encouraging you guys to get off your butts and build some two-strokes. So we've got an RM250 Phathead that will go on the bike that he's giving away. We're going to custom etch it for him and for you, Mr. Winner, whoever you may be. So let's see what's all part of the process. We've got to generate some G-code on my Bobcat program because it's not just, slap it in a machine and push some buttons. We've got to actually program the machine to follow the arc of this surface and the width of this surface, and then we've got to tell it what we want to say. It's a little bit tricky, but I've been through this process many times. This is going to be not a tutorial on how to do a custom etching. If you want to see all the steps in the process, I can post another video. Just leave me some information in the comments about what you really want to see out of these videos and out of this channel. What you can expect is some bike builds. Of course, lots of product information and display of the Phatheads. This is an original design Phathead.
That's it. All done. How'd I do that so fast? Alright, next step is to save the program which I generated with Bobcat, upload that to the 4-axis mini CNC mill, and we'll put some engraving lines on the cylinder head for you. And while that's happening, I'll show off some of what I've got going on for 2020. Stay tuned.
Finishing out 2019 in the shop because there's really nothing else I'd rather do. I'm just that kind of a goofball. So let me show you some of the stuff I got going on. We got some projects for myself. We got some projects for some other people. I'm going to turn the camera around and talk about all of the above.
Let's start with Project Disruptor. Huge shout out to Charles over at MxRevival for letting me in on this project, giving me a chance to show off the Phathead, and we're going to do the 72mm overbore chamber to match this cylinder that was done up by Millennium Technologies. And I'd have to say Millennium did a nice job on this cylinder. Looks like it's going to be a real winner. Let's see here if I can get this cylinder back on. Just pay attention. But we've got some new hardware from Bolt Motorcycle Hardware. We're going to supply some new studs. I didn't get the studs from Bolt, but we're going to supply some new stainless steel studs with this cylinder because these are a little rough. And we got new hardware from Bolt Motorcycle Hardware. We hooked up with them, so we got some nice shiny cap nuts, some nice washers that'll go along with the YZ and RN cylinder heads. As previously, Phathead Racing was not set up to provide that hardware. So upgrades as we go into 2019, that's one of the first ones we're working with. So we're talking about this Team Pryme build. Here's a cylinder head for Mr. Niemela. We got something nice looking for him. Good etching result, that's what we're looking for. Oh, and you know what? Yeah, did I show you the other side here? Project Disruptor, MxRevival. This thing looks so good. I'm really excited about this. It's a YZ250 300 big bore, if I didn't also already mention that. I don't know, it's getting late. I'm kind of crazy. We got a bunch of heads around here. Oh, I can't show you those. Those are top secret. Got a bunch of heads on the bench. New stuff here. Blah, blah, blah. But who cares about cylinder heads? Let's talk more about this Team Pryme. What's going on with this build competition? We need bikes that need rebuilt. Well, I got a YZ125 right here. I'm not going to compete with you guys on this build. I'm going to take my time with this, but I will build alongside you. I'm not really going for the prize. I'd rather provide some of the prizes for you because I'm living my dream over here and I'm loving it. So I'm just going to keep building away and doing my thing. I had this bike, had my eye on this thing for a while. I've been looking for an 05 or newer YZ125. And this one's definitely got some wear on it. The wheels are pretty well clapped out. The good points on it that I always look for in a bike whenever I buy a used bike is grab the rear brake. Oh no, this one's no good, but the pegs are tight. The rotors are looking pretty good. They haven't been replaced. Those are OE rotors. You know, of course the frame and all that's straight. So other than that, yeah, everything else is pretty rough. It's gonna need bearings. I'm gonna go through the entire motor. I went to Harbor Freight today and bought this polisher tumbler. I got some polishing abrasive here. I'm gonna do a little research and see if I've got the right stuff to polish the tranny. I might need to get some different media. Harbor Freight hardly has any selection there, but it is what it is, you know, getting that bargain basement stuff. So yeah, we're gonna clean up the transmission on this, vapor blast the cases, see if we can get some help from some friendly sponsors and maybe put some upgrade parts on the intake side. Definitely need a better exhaust system. Stock exhaust is looking a little rough. But I do have, where's my cylinder kit for this thing? Can you find that? All right. That's gonna be on this side of the shop somewhere. One of these. Yeah, this is my cylinder for that bad boy. I've got a 150 top end. So this is a true 150cc 59mm big bore, and we do a custom MxRevival.com piston. It's a collaboration between my old man and I coming up with this. So we're gonna build it, test it, ride it, and have some fun. That's the whole idea behind getting this bike right here, is that I wanted to show off the Phathead and the 150 kit together. So there you have it. Looking pretty rough, but we'll bring it back to life. That's what this is all about. In the meantime, I've got some other projects that, if you're paying attention to my Instagram page, you know that I'm working on a KX500. So that's the 450 right there, completely stripped down. The 500 is in the other part of my shop. We're not going to go in there. It's dark and cold and I don't want to deal with it. It's just an old ugly KX500. But the KX500 has got to stay together until I get the Phathead finished. We're in prototype phases and design phases of the Phathead, so we're not there yet. Once the Phathead is done, I'm going to put it on that KX500 motor, start it up, test it out, and then we'll bring it to the market. And then at that point I can split that motor down and cut this frame up, size everything up, rebuild the motor, and get it all coming back together. CRF 150R here for my son. We've got a rolling chassis separate from this one that's a big wheel rolling chassis. So I'm first going to slam together a small wheel CRF 150R, then we're going to move him up to the big wheel, which will be a much nicer bike. We're going to put a lot of time into that. This one here is just going to be a quickie. We just got to get it together and ride. Once I jump him up to the big wheel bike, we're going to take the motor out of this one to put in that other rolling chassis, and then I'm going to put my Thumpstar motor in this chassis, and I'll have the ultimate pit bike to ride around my yard once we do this thing up. Well, actually no, what am I saying? This one's not going to be my pit bike. This one's going to be my bike for my nieces. I've got two nieces that are a few years younger than my son. So we're going to take the 150R motor out and put it in the big wheel rolling chassis that I got the brakes Cerakoted. We're going to do powder coating on the frame, all kinds of vapor blast, all kinds of good stuff, port and polish, big valves. Oh yeah, are we going to do all that stuff? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what we're doing with the motor, but probably all that stuff to the motor, and we're going to build a fun bike for my dad and I. But then last but definitely not least, we've got this shifter cart right here, CR125. This is an earlier year CR125 motor. I think it's a 98 or older, somewhere in that range. So 92 to 98 I think is what that would be. So it's a pretty bad little piece right here. This was owned by a couple of friends of mine, and they passed it down over the years and didn't get a whole lot of use out of it because they were just kind of tied up doing other stuff. So it ended up in my possession. See the rain tires up front. We're going to stud those. I've got a pond that freezes over. It's I don't know if you want to call it a pond, more like a wetland. It's quite a few acres of land that I'll get to play with, but this thing needs a little bit of repair. The rear brake is leaking. I guess we need some seals for that caliper there, and definitely going to clean up the rust and swap out the wheels, stud up the tires. I'm going to do a radiator guard. This is a intense fabrication radiator setup. Intense Fabrication is not too far from my hometown. The guy who owns and operates and comes up with all the brilliant stuff there, his name is Doug Kekich. And this is a universal shifter cart, radiator setup. It's adjustable and it's really, really nice. It's all CNC, all made out of aluminum. I don't know, what more can I say? This is a pretty cool little cart. It's modded up. Could use a nicer silencer maybe. Definitely needs detail. I'm gonna go through all that. I'd like to get a body kit for it. Some help I'll need from you folks on the internet is, can I get any more ground clearance out of this thing? Because I'm gonna be running it on an icy pond, and you know, things will get a little crazy down there. There's little tree stumps sticking up, there's rocks and such. Sometimes it gets a little snowy. So if I can get some taller tires for the front, I see there's axle adjustments for the rear axle block here, so I might be able to raise that up here, but I don't want to throw off the steering geometry by raising the rear and not the front. So if anybody wants to chime in and help me out with that, if anybody recognizes this cart and there's anything they want to tell me about it, I really don't know a whole lot about these, but I'm not afraid to dive into stuff and learn as I go. That's how I kind of got into all this madness, and that's what's gotten me into this situation right now. Just got to go with the flow, man. So there's my 2020 visions. We've got YZ, it's gonna go 150, and then I'm actually probably gonna stroke it after that. We're eventually gonna have a dyno in-house here to do some dyno testing with that. Then we've got the KX450 that's getting the 500 stuffed in it. CRF 150R. We've got a couple different, like I say, 2 different chassis. One will get a thump star motor when it's done, and you know, the other one, blah 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 blah. Happy New Year!